that the church is not a building; it's actually a community. It's a group, and once they get that, hey, it's not just about me just growing, or everything is focused on me, but it's for a collective goal that everything is supposed to like whenever we reach out, God, whenever we reach out, God's supposed to reach back out to us, or we reaching back out to God. So everything got to go back to Him.
Mm, yeah.
That's just probably like the point. I mean, the matter of fact.
Mm. No, I like how you said that, church isn't a building, it's a community. Because one thing I was thinking about the other day, actually, in fact, was would you like are you actually a part of your local community as far as church is concerned, or do you only go to that church for a specific reason? What, like, you like that pastor, or you like the choir, or you like something that is a part of the church? There's nothing wrong with seeking out to have good word or somebody that entertains you. I think that's a good thing, or a choir that sings music that you relate to, or the style of music is something that you really rock with. But if that pastor were to leave, would you stop going to that church? Because if that is the case, then you were really going for that pastor rather than going to be a part of that community. Because the whole point of church is, okay, yeah, we got this pastor, and maybe I was drawn to the church because of this pastor, or because of the choir, or because of some aspect of the church. But once you become a part of the community, you must become involved in the community to where that is like your family. So that even if part of the family branches off and goes to do something different, or gets elevated in another way as far as their calling, you're still a part of that community unless you're called to go with them, essentially. But I
Yeah,
think a lot of times it's like, oh, this pastor's leaving. I don't have a reason to go to that church. And it's like, well, you weren't really a part of the church. You just went to that, you know, community only to see that one person. And it's really that you're putting them above, your relationship with God.
man, I feel hit right now. I really do, because I thought that, hey, just because I'm going to church because I really want to hear the word,
Hmm.
but it was really because that pastor was heat, and I felt like he was really preaching that kingdom message, and not knowing that I was also carnal in my own eyes, and me looking at everything else, me looking at, okay, the music people, they off the chain and they doing the most, and I wasn't even looking at myself. Man, you just got me over here thinking. You got me over here thinking for real. So, man,
No,
that's
yeah,
crazy.
definitely. One thing you always say, and I like you always use the word carnal. And one thing that you
Yeah,
said in your last podcast, which everybody should go, see that the Conscious Outlet podcast is on fire. But one thing you say is you got to see with your kingdom, spectacles, or your kingdom
yeah.
glasses, and rather than your carnal ones. Can you take us through what that exactly means?
Okay, so basically, it's real simple. I like to make it real simple. So spiritually, you want to look through things through the way that Jesus would definitely look at it. But typically, carnal is just what we will see. Like, hey, if I see this person across the street that may be looking like they're doing some mischief or something, I'm looking at it just from what I see instead of knowing the background, understanding like how God is could be actually working in that person's life or
Mm,
whatever, because we only seeing from a one-dimensional standpoint instead of from a from a three-dimensional standpoint. And so yeah, so basically carnal is just really just seeing things from our perception, because with our perception, it's actually governed from our experiences, the things that we have done in life, and also what we have allowed to become like our culture, or our philosophy. And so man, just in that, you just have me thinking about so many different things, because let's say for instance, I used to battle a lot, not as much now, of if I'm at work. Um, Basically, if I'm at work, was it something racist that somebody, just, said to me, or, did to me, or, was it something else? And so, man, it's definitely, tough sometimes, because I have to constantly remind myself, and also put myself in the habit of like really seeking God, even even while I'm even looking at something, with my corner eyes. So yeah, man, it's really just, you just operating in the spirit, because once you read more, you understand more. Like I always like to say that your true essence and your character starts to build, and and that's with that godly foundation. So
Oh, absolutely. And one of the big things is that we can only see a person's actions, right? But God can actually see the person's heart. And so, like
yeah.
you said, a person could be in a season of their life where they really are starting to understand what it means to live righteously. They kind of understand what the goal of their purpose is as far as what God has for them and who God has called them to be and how he wants them to live righteously and holy, but they haven't gotten to the point where they're actually walking that thing out to their fullest potential, right? I mean, just because you picked up a bat doesn't mean you're automatically, Babe Ruth hitting home runs almost every time you step up
Yeah,
to the plate. And so
exactly.
you like you got to recognize that people are in different chapters of their life, and just because they aren't as, you know, appear to be as righteous as maybe you are in your walk,
Hmm.
or maybe they're more righteous than you, doesn't mean that, you're less valuable in the sight of God. We're all still working, and doesn't mean that they can't be a part of your community and that you need to disassociate yourself with them. As a matter of fact, we need to come together to
Hmm.
get a perspective from everybody, because you can learn from everybody. And when you have that mindset rather than the mindset of I'm holier than thou, or maybe they're more holier than me, so I can't associate with them, or I'm not on their level yet, when we all just come together as just people and interact, then we will be able to do far more than we could ever think, because we have this, collective wisdom when people come together, rather than this, okay, I'm limited in my scope and they're limited in their scope.
Yeah, hey man, I really do love it. One of the key phrases that you just said was that collective wisdom, and I feel like with that really just sets the tone for each and every person. I've learned so much from, my friends and also family, that I was like, I know that I wouldn't have been, um, as wise as I am, or even just saw things through a different spectacle, if it wasn't for God using them, and also opening up my heart so I can be able to, receive it. And so, man, it's, that phrase, I'm gonna have to definitely take that from you, though. Yeah, yeah, that collective wisdom.
Oh
So,
yeah, there's this really good book called Wisdom of the Crowds, and it
hmm.
it basically talks about how, and it's similar to how, sports betting works, where, as you have all these people basically putting their input in, and you get this average
Okay.
of the answers. And when people bet on like the scores of the books, they're
Hmm.
generally right, because you have all these people inputting their own perspective of how they think the situation is going to go. Now, you may have outliers and everybody's not giving the same answer, but if everybody is collectively putting in an answer, you can see the thread of the actual answer through that. And so that's why it's good to have so many different perspectives, because there's wisdom in seeing the totality of every scenario for a given, outcome. And so that'll make your vision clearer, rather than saying, okay, we're just going to get the smartest person and whatever they say goes. And it's like, no, that's very limiting. They could be dead wrong, even though they're very intelligent or very creative or an expert in this field. So yeah.
Is it? And you made me think about something else. Like, it just really popped up on my sphere. Like, sometimes you can get something, whether it's, uh, in my opinion, if if you got some advice from someone, and maybe not in that moment that you could really grasp it or understand it, but it may be 10 years down the road that somebody is going to basically water that seed that was planted in you, so you can actually be able to use that as a resource in the future or whatever. It's almost just like farming. Hey, you go through seasons because you may not understand it then. It's almost just like when an older person give you some, definitely give you some game, back on the day on whether how to deal with people, on how to love people, how to be forgiving, and then like, oh yeah, I'm not really trying to hear all of that. I'm young. This person messed over me, so I'm done. And then the next thing 5 years later, you're like, dang, well, I was in that position and I did somebody wrong. And then now I have to be not only forgiving of myself, but also, to that person as well. And, also open up and for me to be a, man to go and say, hey, I messed up. That shouldn't have, happened. And so, like, I really just like to thank God that He gives us that grace and mercy, because a lot of times we think that we are more than what we are, because we like to weigh that Libra scale of seeing like, yeah, mine's not that bad, but this person, they doing this. And so, man, you really throwing out them gems today, man. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, but also what you're saying takes a lot of humility as well, because it's one thing to, so like you said, like to have the humility to be like, hey, and the self-awareness as well, to be like, okay, this seed that was planted or this tidbit that I got from somebody that I may have overlooked generally if I was just going about my daily life, but that little tidbit that they gave me or that moment that I had with them manifested into something I can use now in the future, is that's a beautiful thing. But it also takes humility and a sort of a conscious awareness to be like, okay, every interaction I have, no matter what the title of the person, is important. Whether I agree with them in a religious sense, whether I agree with them politically, whether we even have the same interests. Every encounter that I have with any person is of value, because you never know how that interaction and what you can extract from it can manifest itself to be useful in the future. So I think that's very important. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of, males aren't doing that. And that's why male leadership is kind of failing.
Yes, I see that they're leading right right next to
Yeah.
what we're about to talk about right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that is a good
1,000.
oh yeah, that's a good segue. And we're gonna
Yeah.
talk about this right after this break. If you have any questions for me or Alan, make sure you put them down into the comments. Until then, we will be right back.
So
Fight for the algorithm.
you said